Hello, it is I, Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been interested in the Hebrune booklet and Hebrunes that I am making. For those of you who have attempted to get them and found that they are sold out, that's because they're sold out. I'm in the process of supplying more rounds and getting them back up and running soon. So if you'd like to find a way to get your own set of Hebrunes, then you can visit my link in the description box. But for today, we're going to be doing a reading on gratitude. What is it how does gratitude show up in our lives? And I'm feeling very grateful today. And I just wanted to explore that a little bit. So I'm going to pull out 3 cards. This is from the Soul deck. And these are the kind of cards that don't have any correlation to tarot or anything else. They are just beautiful paintings that depict various moods and feeling states. So I'm going to pull out 3 cards today to see what kind of reading comes up for those. And you can choose one of the readings, and I'll put timestamps below, and you'll have an opportunity to click on that timestamp and find your reading for today. And as always, if you're drawn to more than one, please do check them out. Okay, let's see. This is the 3rd one. I kept wanting to stay on top, so we'll go with that. Okay, for card number 1, we have this beautiful image. I'm not sure what direction it's supposed to go. I like to look at it in all the ways. I think like this. So here's this person lying on their back and reaching up. Looks like maybe even playing with the colors and shapes that are floating above them. A slight smile on their face. Looks a little bit like leaves and a little bit like flowers and a little bit like imaginary objects. That's card number 1. For card number 2, we have this beautiful depiction. Looks like a giving and receiving situation here. And for card number 3, we have this image. Someone reaching out through a crevasse. And I'm also going to take 3 Nordic runes today to add to these cards. Maybe give us a little bit more clarity. I'll reach into my little rune bag here. And these, again, are Nordic runes from the Elder Futhark. We have Sowelo. It's about sun and source energy. We have Wunjo. That's joy. And for number 3, we have Othala. And Othala is about home. Okay, so take a moment to discern which of these 3 cards and 3 Nordic runes appeals to you today. I'll put the timestamps down below, and then I will see you in your reading. Hello, card number 1. For those of you who chose this lovely card, I'll bring it back up to show again. We have a person relaxing, lying on their back, reaching up to touch or play with each of these colorful objects that are being shown to them above, leaves and flowers and imaginary creatures, maybe butterflies. The person is reminds me of a child. They are young, they look very unclothed, as if they're innocent and just daydreaming, looking up at the objects above. And in addition to that, we have Sowelo, which is the Nordic Rune, which is about the sun. It is about source energy and wholeness and awareness, being able to see clearly, a certain amount of hope and victory. It's a yes answer. If you're asking a yes or no question, it's just about source energy, really feeling the sun and the source guiding you or looking down upon you. So in regards to gratitude, what comes up for me when I look at this is, here's someone who has the ability to just lie back and relax and take some time to daydream and really feel grateful right now for all that they have already. Not that they've received anything new particularly, but that there is gratitude for all that is already existent in their situation, in their life. Just being grateful for the source, like this yellow coming down from above, that light that's coming into their lives are just shining upon them all the time. And that's what it feels like this relationship to gratitude is. In addition to that, we're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes today. And Hebrune number 1 is, it's the Ein Sof. Number 2, we have Lamed. And for number 3, we have Tav. This is great. So what I'm seeing here with these 3 representations of the Hebrunes is the number 1, the top, coming down from above, Ein Sof. It's the rune that speaks to the infinite. That source energy that we're talking about here, that provides all and is all for all things. Looks like we have a little friend here. We have some ants who have joined us on our reading. We can even be grateful for those as they wander around here. So it's about this unendingness, the tohu vavohu, the void, that which is timeless and before time and after time, and the in lieu of time, time being a complete construct in our world. Tahom, this boundlessness, like the source, again, the source energy, the primordial stuff out of which everything is made. It has associations with the infinite, and that all of existence, all of matter, and all of time is fashioned from oneness. It is this idea of the divine needing to contract themselves in order to make space for creation to exist. This idea of Tzimtzum, she who makes space. Queen Tzimtzumai is one of the names for the divine, the present one, the Shekhinah. So it's about this eternity, this time before time, this time after time, that we all are, were, and will be oneness again. And there is no correspondence in the tarot, but it does correspond to the Nordic rune Weird, which is that blank also of fate and destiny and that void. The idea of infinite possibility. And it's so beautiful with this card, because here's this person just daydreaming of all that might be and being appreciative for all that is. And our center letter today is the letter Lamed. And sometimes when we do a reading like this with the 3 different Hebrunes, we can perceive the second one as being maybe a challenge or a fear in the situation. The Lamed is the one letter in Hebrew that reaches above the line. And so it's about reaching up to divinity. And I love it in conjunction with this way, just where it's sitting in the reading, is we've got this Lamed reaching up toward the infinite. And Lev is the word that means heart in Hebrew, and Lamed is the first letter of that word Lev. So it corresponds to the heart. It corresponds to reaching up with heart, kind of an aspiration of hope, and it is the foundation of action. So the way I'm reading this today with regards to this very relaxed person here is that because Lamed is the foundation of action, maybe there's a concern or a fear about having to start again. Maybe we're just finishing Shabbat. We've been resting. We don't really want to go back to work. Maybe there's a time that we need to just take an extra day. There is a celebration that happens at the end of Shabbat called Havdalah, which is that distinction between Shabbat and the rest of the week. And it is said that one can delay their Havdalah celebration until Tuesday if you really want to extend your Shabbat out longer, but no later than Tuesday. So if you haven't done Havdalah yet this week, maybe take a little extra time. That's my chime that goes off randomly to remind us that Shekhinah, the present one, is here. And we can express gratitude for Shabbat. We can express gratitude for that ability to just rest, be where we are, and absorb that source energy that's coming down. So if we have a concern about going back to work, about taking action in the world again, we can take time. We can take the time right now to just rest and rejuvenate ourselves, really listen to our heart. The Lamed also corresponds to this idea of teaching and learning. So maybe there's a certain amount of lessons that we're learning or something that we have learned that now we need to teach. And maybe that's a little scary too. It's about having to take the knowledge that we've received and turn it around and present it back to the world. So if that's of concern, just remember that time is a construct and the infinite is watching over us. And our final letter in this reading today is the letter Tav. And that is the final letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And in the reading of three like this last letter is the outcome or consequences given our current state of affairs. And so the letter Tav, being the last letter, it's a signature or a seal or a stamp. It is the last letter, so it's like the signature of the divine that's been put on creation. It is said that the letters were used to create the universe, that it was the means through which the divine engraved divinity into that primordial void up here with the tohu vavohu, and the Tav is that signature or stamp at the end that says it is finished. And so it's about completion, and we have this knowledge that as we are going through whatever it is we're going through, the gratitude that we're experiencing, that basking in source energy that we've got going on, and maybe some concern about action and some concern about teaching or learning that we've got going on, that we are coming to completion. Something is final here, that there's maybe a certain amount of judgment that's coming, that something has been finished and now we have this ability to discern what is the next thing to do. It is said that Tav is the center of the celestial temple, in this idea that there is this place where the divine dwells. So it's like that holy of holies almost within us as we sit and contemplate and relax and rest and listen to our heart, that we can tap into that central place within us. It does correspond to the moon in the sky. We've got the full moon coming up just a couple of days from now. So we do have this full moon, this fullness that things are coming into just on Purim, which is coming up on Tuesday. So we have a fullness that is coming to manifest in our lives. And that moon is going to be shining above us as we finish out whatever it is we're finishing out here. Because this letter corresponds to a stamp or a seal, I think of it as being an impression, like something being pressed into some soft clay, perhaps. And because it is the final letter, I think of it as being about reincarnation as well, about something that is a cycle that is coming to an end, like the moon cycle or like any cycle that we might have in our lives. And I think of it as, with regards to like reincarnation, maybe not technically reincarnation per se, but the idea that we live on because our ancestors lived before us, that there's this idea that the ancestral energy and DNA is stamped onto us, that somehow we are here because of our ancestors, regardless of how good or bad or indifferent we think of them. There's this certain amount of history and ancestral energy that is stamped into us. So that's maybe something to contemplate now with gratitude, that whatever has come before us, whether we perceive it as good, bad, or indifferent, it's the reason we're here. And if we can think about our ancestors going back far enough, we can imagine how joyous they would be to see us as we are now, living our lives, and how happy they will be to know that we can express gratitude to them for allowing us to come into being. So I'm going to pull out one more card. This is from the Wildwood Tarot deck, and just to get a little clarity more on this particular reading. There it is. And we have the card, the Two of Cups, the Two of Vessels, attraction. And this is beautiful. I see two animals. Looks like one is an elk and one is a horse. And they're coming together, their hearts of fire. And out of their hands are pouring a liquid into two beautiful cups. So it's this idea of partnership, this idea of coming together in some kind of partnership. It doesn't necessarily have to be a love partnership that's romantic, but being able to reach out to another person, and maybe just even reaching out to yourself or to the divine, to the source energy. I love that this one has the antlers. That's like a protective symbol, the antlers. And the horse is a symbol of power. So power and protection coming together, and this heart bursting into flame between them, which I love. And the water, which represents emotion, pouring into these cups. So this is a reading that, again, is expressing gratitude. We're talking about your relationship with gratitude. We've got the sun, the source energy, shining down upon this being who's enjoying their rest. We have the infinite that is our main Hebrune here, the Ein Sof, which speaks to the idea of source, the idea of that primordial material, the chaos that came before time. And our challenge here maybe is heart. Our challenge here is this action and being able to reach up with heart toward that, expressing gratitude toward our source. And with Tav, we have this finality, completion, but also a new beginning. So that idea of reincarnation, the idea of our ancestors having given us what we have, and being able to express gratitude toward them with heart. And then we have this partnership, the two of vessels, where two come together, even though they don't even seem to be appearing to be the same species, but this idea of protection and power coming together to form a new thing with emotion, with heart, with fire, many elements coming together. And that's something to be grateful for. Again, this idea of protection and power, which may be coming from the ancestors, the male line and the female line, regardless of gender, we have these different lines coming together to create us. And that, it's funny because it also, although it's water pouring into these cups, it looks so much like Shabbat candles to me because they're white and then the flame above. So it's like that ancestral heritage that's coming down, whether you're Jewish or not, whether that Shabbat is an important thing to you or not. There are ancestral heritages and lineages that come down to us and are stamped onto us through our DNA, through the energy that comes to us. So that's something for which to be grateful. So for those of you who chose card number 1, this has been your reading today. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will look forward to seeing you here next time. Shavua Tov, and Hag Sameach Purim. Hello, those of you who chose card number 2. This is your reading. This is your card today. And I love this in terms of gratitude because we have a giving and receiving that's going on here. And it's unclear who's exactly giving and who's receiving, but there's definitely an exchange going on. It could be that this yellow figure above is giving the flower to the blue figure below, or it could be that the blue figure is offering that red flower up to the yellow figure. And it looks as if the yellow figure is more spiritual, like it might be an angel or a messenger or the divine itself, or could be just another person, and that this blue figure is much more grounded, more earth-bound, and the flower is red and glowing and is either being placed into their hands or they're offering it up to this maybe divine being above. So there's an exchange going on, and with that, usually there is some gratitude that comes, that perhaps we are offering up something to the divine as an offering, or we are receiving something from the divine, and we can be grateful for that. And either way, I mean, the exchange can go either way, and it doesn't matter because it's all the same stuff. It's all the one. And we have from the Nordic runes, we have the rune Wunjo, and Wunjo means joy. And so it's about harmony and joy and prosperity and well-being, actually feeling self-worth, feeling that inner joy as well. So I think that's beautiful that we've got this this idea of exchange going on, gifting or offering up what we have to offer, in this case this beautiful blossom, and out of that comes joy, or maybe out of joy comes the offering, one way or the other. It doesn't matter. Time is irrelevant. And so that seems like a beautiful expression of gratitude today, that chance of offering, the chance of exchange that goes with that. And in addition to that, we're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes today. I'll do this from the Nordic set. And our top Hebrune is the letter Yud. Love it. Our central is the letter Kuf. And our lower letter is the letter Mem. Okay. So the top letter, being the letter Yud, is beautiful. And I say that because it's the first letter of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He. And since we've got this sort of divine figure, this representative of maybe spirit that's coming and receiving the gift or giving the gift, I love that Yud is our top letter. And it's the letter that is the smallest of all the letters. So it seems really tiny, but it holds everything within it. It's like a seed. We have these ideas of seeds that can encapsulate entire forests within them. And of course, with trees, we have this idea of all the fruit then that comes with every tree, and then every seed and every fruit could potentially create more trees and more forests and more orchards. So it's this one point, this seed, this atom, this sperm that can potentially create so much. This idea of this creation, this tiny speck that has the potential for everything. It's also the first letter of the word yad, which means hand. And we've got so many hands here in this card. We've got the two hands of the celestial being and the two hands of the other being. And so we've got a lot of hands going on here. Offering, again, offering, giving, receiving. Hands have a lot to do with all of those ideas. It's the foundation of sexuality in the Sefer Yetzirah version that I studied, which comes from Kohenet, Rabbi Jill Hammer, in her book, Return to the Place. So this idea of sexuality, which is that creative force that brings forth life into the world, and also connection with another, like sexuality is a connection with another person, but that intimacy that comes with sexuality is an important factor here. And it's the number 10 in Gematria. It's the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So it has associations with all things 10. We have this idea of the 10 commandments, the 10 Sefirot, which are the divine emanations of God. And it looks like maybe even the 10 ants that are wandering around on the table here. So we have the idea of 10, and 10 is that magnifier number, so like to the power of a thing, 10 times a thing, which just gives its ultimate manifestation. And so it does have this connection with again, potential, ultimate power. And of course, the first letter of the divine name. It's like the atom, the smallest particle, which is the building block of all things in the universe. And I love that with regards to this reading and this idea of the gift, that maybe we are being given one tiny thing, or we are offering up one tiny thing, and that allows for joy. It allows for gratitude. It allows for the beginning of a new thing coming in. And our second letter is the letter Kuf, which is in Gematria the number 100, so 10 times 10. So we're jumping straight into the ultimate manifestation. We're jumping into this to the power of 10 with the letter Kuf. And the central letter in our reading like this often has to do with a challenge or a fear that we're running across. The letter Kuf is the letter that means holy, sacred, kadosh. It's the first letter of the word kadosh, or kedusha, and it also is the first letter of the word kof, which means monkey. And you can see a little bit of a monkey tail on there. And it's the foundation of sleep. So a lot of contradictions here. There's holiness, there's monkey business, and there's sleep. And it is the letter that corresponds to the month of Adar, where we are right now. We're coming right up on the full moon of Adar, in which we celebrate Purim, which is this holiday of joy. And so it's great that I love that Kuf and Wunjo look so similar here in their shapes as well. So we have this idea of joy and playfulness and all the foolishness and the foolery that comes with Purim. This idea that we become so full of joy that it's this almost like a frenzy of joy that we come into in the time of Purim, which is just right now in our world. It's the so the struggle that we're going through, it's interesting. It corresponds to the tribe of Naphtali, which means my struggle. So I love that it's here in this central position, which would be the fear or the challenge that we're facing right now. And so perhaps for us, as we're looking at gratitude and the challenges that we might face with this exchange that's going on, maybe a new seed that's been planted, but we have this conflict between what is holy and how do we manifest the holiness in our life. What is sacred? What is sacred and what isn't? And also with the idea of the monkey, is there an animal nature that we're having to struggle with? Is there something that we are wrestling with right now with regards to our own animal nature? Just trying to, be silly, be foolish, learn how to play. But how can we learn how to play and at the same time remain sacred? How can we embody the sacred fool in our daily life? How can we learn to receive and give with joy, and that's the challenge here as we look at this reading of gratitude and this connection with divinity. And our third letter in the reading is the letter Mem, and Mem is one of the mother letters. It's the mother letter of water. It is the number 40 in Gematria, and so it corresponds to the 40 weeks of gestation in the human body. So something is being gestated here. And this is the position that represents our outcome, our potential outcome for our situation here. So we're being given something or we're giving something up. The seed is being planted. We're wrestling with the idea of our animal nature, the sacred fool. How do we remain holy while we also remain playful and embody joy? And what it comes down to is something is gestating. Something new is coming. Some watery thing is coming to us. So the mother letter of water represents transformation. It represents cleansing. The word mikvah, which is a ritual bath that makes us holy, is the letter that begins mikvah, mem. And so we have this whole idea of the waters of life, the mayim chaim, the belly and the body, the amniotic fluid, the 40 weeks of gestation, and all the things that come with 40, the 40 years in the wilderness, the 40 days of rain with Noah, the 40 days on Mount Sinai when Moses went up to receive Torah, which is often likened unto water. So this idea of and emotions are very watery. We think about that, emotions of joy and emotions of sorrow and grief also. So thinking about all of those things and how that's going to play out here with this seed that's been planted, with this exchange, this intimate exchange that's taking place, that there is this joy and playfulness and there's a sacredness to it. And out of that comes some beautiful gestation, some new thing that is being gestated within us, within our bodies, to be born sometime soon. I correspond the letter Mem to the high priestess card in the tarot, because it's about this moon mother, this receptivity, this mystery that's within. So if that resonates for you in any way, the Mem being the high priestess, being that mother that holds all things, maybe secretly inside, until time is ripe for it to be born. And so feeling gratitude for that exchange, feeling gratitude for the seed that's being planted, for the joy that we're feeling right now, and that gestation that's coming. And I'm going to pull out one more card, this one from the Wildwood Tarot deck, just to give us a little bit more clarity about our situation right now in the world. One more. There it is. And what we have is the card, the Archer. And you can see that as someone's taking aim and just about to let fly their arrow. And these animals in the back that look like dogs, I guess they're hunting dogs. And it is the number 7. Is that a snake down below? I can't quite tell. It might be. Well, so we have the archer. And the archer is someone who is hunting, right? And then the number 7 is the chariot card in traditional tarot. In the Wildwood Tarot deck, things are slightly different, but it still has this idea of sort of triumph. And it could be, I mean, a chariot is frequently seen as riding into war. There is this idea of moving forward, very fast movement, and also power that one has over a certain situation. So the way I see how the archer fits into this reading is that she's focused. She's so focused on one point. And we have that one point here with the yod, the yud. She's using her hands to pull back the bowstring. And she is flanked on both sides by these enormous hounds that are helping to assist her in her journey. She wears this small talisman around her neck, which actually looks very much like a yud. And she's just focused on that one thing that she's ready to capture. And so I think it's about that single-minded focus, that our current situation is one point. We've got the point on the arrow, we've got the tooth or claw that's hanging around her neck. It's that focus on one thing. And then as we work through our challenge with finding the sacredness within our playfulness, we will continue, as I said, to move forward to that gestation period. Once that seed has been planted, once that arrow has been launched, there's no turning back. And we are moving toward that gestation of the next great thing. That this actually reminds me very much of one of those Epiphany paintings where the angel is giving the seed to the human. And then that seed will grow and manifest and turn into, ideally, joy and gratitude for all that we have. So for those of you who chose this card, this has been your reading. I hope that you have a beautiful Purim celebration, should you celebrate this coming full moon. Shavua Tov. Please do like and subscribe to my channel if you do like it, and I will look forward to seeing you here in the future. Hello. For those of you who chose this card, this looks to me like a person who is entrapped either in the earth or in some water and is reaching up with their left hand for help to be extracted. But it also reminds me so much of birth. It looks like an adult person, but that same kind of coming out of that narrow place, which is something we'll be talking about a lot as we move into spring with Passover. In the Hebrew tradition, we move from Egypt, which is known as Mitzrayim, the narrow place. But this person is reaching up. They're reaching up for help, it looks like, from above. And ideally, if all goes well, they will receive that help and they will express their gratitude at that time for the help they do receive. And the Nordic rune that we have that going with this is Othala. And Othala looks like this, if you can see that. So you have like a diamond with a tail. And it is the Nordic rune of the home or homestead. Sometimes it's seen as property or inheritance, some kind of possessions or heritage that one receives from the ancestors, or it could be a physical place, like a homestead, or some kind of spiritual gift from the ancestors, or the ancestral homeland of some sort. So that goes together with this in terms of, again, this idea of gratitude, that maybe we're reaching up for help from our ancestors. It seems like that's a common theme these days, where we reach backwards toward wisdom of the elders, that we can reach for that heritage to get the help we need to be born from whatever tight place we are in. And when we do that, it's important to express that gratitude for those ancestors that came before us. So we're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes today, in addition to that Nordic rune and that soul card. And the first one coming up today is the letter Tzadi. Our second letter is the letter Resh. And our third letter is the letter Dalet. So our top letter generally has to do with our current situation, what is going on right now for us. And the letter Tzadi is the letter that speaks to righteousness, or a righteous person. The word tzaddik is a person who is a righteous one, and it begins with the letter tzadi, as well as the word justice, tzedek, and the concept of charity or caring for others, which is tzedakah. And it corresponds to the foundation of thought in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, in the translation that I studied by Rav Kohenet, Rabbi Jill Hammer, in the book Return to the Place. So this foundation of thought that comes with justice and righteousness, and taking care of others. Some say that the tzadi looks like a bent nun with a yud on its back, and the letter nun, which would be this left half, it represents humility, and the yud, which is this top part, represents the first letter of the divine name. So it's about being humble, as well as relying on or having the divine at one's back through their humility. So it's not humiliation, but it's appropriate humility and divine guidance. I love that tzadi is the number 90 in Gematria, which would represent 10 times 9. 9 is the letter tet, which means a vessel or gestation, like the 9 months of pregnancy. And 10 times 9 is this ultimate manifestation of a gestation, which corresponds to the idea that the matriarch Sarah was 90 years old when Yitzhak was born. Yitzhak, who has the tzadi in his name, and he is one of the patriarchs that allowed the child Yisrael to be born. So we have this idea of this ultimate manifestation of gestation. And here we have this person that looks like they're being born right out of a narrow place. So that seems really appropriate for the situation that we're in, that we have this ultimate manifestation of a good thing. Tet also is the first letter of the word tov, which means good. And so something, even though it's challenging to be born or to give birth, it's still a good thing that comes out of it. So I love that in terms of the tzadi being here as this this letter that's representing the current situation that we're in. I'm going to just note and point out that we do have some visitors here today, little ants that have crawled on our desk, and they are here helping out with the reading, is all I can imagine. The central letter in our reading is the challenge that we're dealing with right now, or maybe the fear that we're dealing with right now. And we have the letter Resh, and Resh is the first letter of the word Rosh, which means head. It's a new beginning. So we have something that's beginning, this birth that looks like it's happening, some transformation certainly that's happening. And with that, there's a fear, a concern that's happening. Oftentimes when there's a new beginning, there's a fear that comes with it, or a concern, or just a challenge of starting something new, or just knowing that it's going to turn out okay. It is the binary foundation of seed and barrenness. So some seed has been planted, and we just don't know whether it's going to bear fruit or whether there'll be barrenness coming from it. And so that's always a concern. That's always a fear. It is the letter that also represents humility. There's a little bit of a bowed head here, not unlike the Nun here, which is like half of the tzadi. We have this idea of, again, humbleness. It's like somebody who's poor. So the word is Rosh in Hebrew. So that's so interesting because we have this idea of giving, of some kind of aid to people who are poor. So we have this idea of poverty or humility or being humbled that goes with this letter Resh, and also this new beginning that's coming. And it's the planet, it rules over the planet Mercury in the sky, so there's something about communication as well that's a challenge here, that maybe there's some problem with communicating what it is we need or what is it we want. This person is reaching up, but I don't see them yelling or calling out or talking about what it is they need right now. So maybe there's a communication issue as well in this challenge position, or this fear, maybe a fear of speaking about what it is we need. In my understanding of the Hebrunes as they correspond to the tarot cards, Resh corresponds to the Tower card. So there's been some kind of sudden destruction or chaos due to poor choices, and maybe this person is stuck in this cavern because they crawled in foolishly and now they're having trouble getting out, but they're maybe having trouble asking for the help that they'd like. So there's something about a challenging time, the challenge of the new beginning, the challenge of speaking out what needs to be spoken, and just that challenge of being humbled or having humility right now when you're stuck at a tight place. And our outcome letter, the letter that represents how things will turn out given the current circumstances, knowing of course that one can always change one's circumstance, is the letter Dalet. And I love that because the letter Dalet speaks to a doorway. It's about a gate, and it's also about humility. We got humility 3 times here in this reading. So Dal means poor, and it's, but you have to duck your head in order to get through the gate. But the gate is it's that doorway. It's that way to get through to the other thing, the other side. It's this liminal space that we're in, this literal liminal space that we're in, that we have to push through to get out onto the other side, to come into whatever the next iteration will be. So we have this idea of threshold, of humbleness, and it does correspond to the number 4 in Gematria. It's the 4th letter of the alphabet, so it can have to do with all things 4, like things that have 4 sides, something with stability, like a door frame, like the 4 directions, north, south, east, west, and the 4 elements of air, fire, water, and earth, and the 4 letters of the divine name. So there is some stability that's coming after all of this. There is this idea of transition that's coming, that there will be some sort of portal that's going to come soon after we get beyond this challenge of the new beginning that we're heading out. Because like I said, giving birth or being born is always very, very intense, if not traumatic. And it can be very painful and very challenging. Again, my correspondence is with the tarot cards. The Dalet corresponds to the death card, which doesn't mean a literal death, but it means a transition, a transformation. If somebody is inside of a womb for all of their consciousness and then suddenly they are being pushed out, it's like a death. You don't know what's on the other side. And yet it's the very first place that you end up when you are born into the world. So that's the outcome here, is that there will be a transition, that we may be in this position right now of trying to determine righteousness, about how to stay humble, about how to understand this ultimate manifestation of the goodness within gestation and being born into righteousness. But when we get to this new beginning, we have a challenge. We have a fear about it. We have a fear about moving forward. We have the concern about what's going to be there on the other side. But eventually, we do come through that doorway, one way or the other. Whether we are able to ask for help that we need or not, we will come through that doorway. And I think with Othala above here, what I'm guessing is it would be a really good time to reach out to the ancestors, to reach out to whoever's come before, whoever can reach down and take your hand, whether that be a literal ancestor or a spiritual ancestor, or maybe a vocational ancestor. Like if you were, say, a musician, you might look up to other musicians who came before you, or if you are an artist, you might have other artists that you rely on, and you may call on them, or you could call on the literal ancestors or a spiritual ancestor if you have some matriarch or patriarch, maybe Sarah, who gave birth to Yitzhak, maybe Yitzhak himself, maybe Rachel, who is corresponding to the Reish. There are all kinds of ancestors. I'm going to just check to see who's corresponding with Dalet. Rivka. Yeah, so we've got several of our matriarchs here. We've got Sarah, who gave birth to Yitzhak, Rachel, who is the matriarch who she sat on the idols and hid them from her father, and so she's corresponding to Reish, and Dalet, which corresponds to Rivka, who is Rebecca, and she is the one who exited the tent of her father and came to dwell in Sarah's tent once she had passed away. So all of these matriarchs are here to support you in your journey if you would just reach up with them and ask for the help that you need. And I'm going to pull out one final card here from the Wildwood Tarot, maybe to give us a little bit more clarity about gratitude and how this will play out for us in this next time coming up. There we go. And we have the World Tree. Amazing. So the World Tree is the card that corresponds to the World card in Tarot. It's the last of the major arcana cards. And it is the card that represents all things coming to an end, but to a conclusion, and so they can start again. So it's that cyclical idea, this idea of the labyrinth. Here you can see we've got the labyrinth, and when you go in, you wander around and around and around, and then you come back out the same way. And I love that at the bottom of this tree there's a door, that there's a Dalet right there. There's a doorway into this tree. And we have, the tree of life, this idea that that our ancestors, our family tree, is representative here as well. That the tree and the roots go down deep into the ground, oftentimes as large as the crown of the tree itself. So we have this idea of wandering in the labyrinth, coming back out the other side, but entering that doorway into the tree of life. That here we have all 4 seasons represented: winter, fall, summer, and spring, the same way we have in the Dalet the number 4. And so there is this outcome of wholeness, this outcome of completion and finality, but in a really healthy and transitional way. And when we come out the other side, we'll know that we have completed what we needed to complete, this transition, this birth, that we are being born. That if we can reach up with heart to our ancestors, to reach up to the matriarchs that came before us, who can help us to be born in this way, that we will find righteousness, that we'll be able to, with humility, come through the new beginning, and that we will pass through this doorway into the tree of life, the world tree itself. So for those of you who chose this card, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my reading. If you did, please like and subscribe. And Shavua Tov, and have a wonderful Hag Sameach Purim on the full moon coming up this week. See you next time.